Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to this session. You're a lot, so thank you very much. And thank you to EENA and Gary for having me today. We'll talk about AI, chatbots, and try to understand what's at stake right now and what should we consider when using them in critical services in terms of healthcare and emergency. So I'm Thomas, I'm an AI expert, and I'm working on chatbot projects for 10 years now, way before all the rage with Chat-GPT and stuff like that. And I'm also the co-founder of ASISPO, which is an intelligent health assistant for post-operative follow-up. So we help patients, so you don't need to take them into emergency protocols. So to begin, just little questions. If you can raise your hands, if I just say chatbots, do you know what a chatbot is? Okay. Keep your hands raised if you already tried chatbots in your personal life. Okay. And among you, how many of you have found the experience very good? Very good experience with a chatbot? A few. That's better than I expected, so that will be interesting. Because when we talk AI in healthcare, there is a lot of promises. The first one is that we could, thanks to AI, live hundreds of years in good health. Well, it's a movie, eh? We saw that we could diagnose COVID-19 by listening to your cough on the phone. Maybe you tried it, I don't know. But it wasn't really reliable. Next one is from Google. And they claim that they can detect skin cancer from your smartphone only with one photograph. More recently, maybe you saw it on the news, we were told that the new GPT-4 AI gets top marks in law and medical exams. Is Chat-GPT already at the level of medical students? What do you think? No, okay, thank you. And rightly so, because we found out that GPT-4 passed the exam on data they already knew. So the GPT-4 knew the questions and gave the right answers, so well done. But machines already help physicians on a day-to-day basis. One example, to stay on the topic of natural language understanding and processing, is from Synapse. It's from France, from Bordeaux, where I come from. They're working on clinical decision support. They support physicians to optimize drug regimens when you are in a consultation with your medical doctor, and is working on the prescription. It's day-to-day tasks, and Synapse can tell the medical doctor that be careful, because I know that this drug and this drug won't do well together, so be careful and maybe find another option. Synapse also helps the French government during COVID vaccination to do pharmacovigilance and to analyze adverse event reports in real time for all France. But it's not new, because also in French we have an emergency specialist called Dr. Loïc Etienne. I don't know if you know him. He's working on Medvir, which is a diagnostic assistance system, and he started to work on Medvir in 1984. And Medvir is simply the best symptom checker. That's what they advertise, and I think it's true. Based on years and years of experience from doctors on the field. It's not magic. So, how does it work? Do you know how AI works in healthcare? It's pretty simple. My first example is one of the more common today and already in production in a lot of tools. It's image analysis. You take structured patient data, all about patient information, medical imaging, lots and lots of images annotated by professionals, and medical literature, clinical cases, scientific papers, and you feed all that into what we call AI. It could be machine learning, deep learning, or other techniques. And you have your model. It learns with past data. So, one example for breast cancer, we trained our AI, sorry for the misspell, our AI with all the data we just saw right before, and we submit a new patient with all his information and the image. And the AI can tell us cancer or not cancer. Of course, we have lots of false positives, false negatives, and lots of statistical errors possible, but it can be a good second opinion, and it's already used when we lack of professionals. So next question, you can maybe raise your hand. Do you know Chat-GPT? Yeah, okay. So this is what we call generative AI. So it's basically the same thing. We got a lot of data, textual data for Chat-GPT, for example. And when we give him a new prompt, it gives us an answer. Did you try it for emergency cases, for example? No? Nobody? Okay. But the big problem is that we, as humans, when we read the answer after our prompt, it looks like it's legit, and maybe it could have been written by a real human. But on what ground? We don't know. And that's one of the big issues, because those large language models, as we call them, you have a prompt, you have an answer, but you don't know what really did generate this answer. In other terms, large language models, you can call them LLMs to go faster, are stochastics, the same like statistical parrots generating contents, but only guessing the next word, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one, to build replies that can feel like they were written by humans. In case of emergency, of course, and always extreme care, and don't use them. But we can train medical assistants, for real. And we do it for a long time. To do that, we have two big blocks. First, we need to understand the question. That's the question understanding, the natural language understanding, NLU. For that, you need conversation history. You need clinical cases if you work into healthcare. The second part of that is the answer generation, natural language generation. It's what is appearing as magical today because of ChatGPT. But to do it properly, you need knowledge bases, you need dictionaries, you need decision trees, and all of that can help you generate an answer you can explain. You can explain why your chatbot, your model, generated this or that answer. You can't with the ChatGPT. So yeah, you have a new question. The model understands it generates an answer, and you have that. It's okay for you? Very simple. So in emergency use cases, I've got two for you. The first one being the University Hospital of Bordeaux and INSERM. They studied trends in reasons for emergency calls during the COVID-19 period in the department of Gironde, using artificial neural networks for language classification. What it says is that they took all emergency tickets and tried to understand them at scale. And to do that, they used the same types of algorithm as ChatGPT. It was GPT-3 at the time. I don't know if some of you made some experiments with those transformers model, as we call them. And so that they can analyze a lot of emergency tickets to get analysis on why people are calling, the degree of emergency, and etc. And now that they train this model, if there is a new pandemic, I hope no, of course, but if there is, they've got a model that could help us understand faster symptoms and new viruses. Another one is Gouritin. Maybe you know them because there was a partnership between EENA and Gouritin. And it's basically the same use cases. In real time, you try to understand what is happening during the call, and then you summarize it, and you start to code why the patient called and what should be the appropriate response. So it saves time, and in times like we are today, as there was a session yesterday about staffing problems, you can help your teams with this kind of tools, and that's, in my opinion, a good way to handle it. But still, we are into analysis and not conversation with the patient in a case of emergency. So now I've got an example about better post-operative follow-up to prevent emergencies. That's a case I'm working on with a surgeon, oral surgeon in Paris. And he had a lot of issues in his day-to-day practice. Because, as you can see it here, post-operative ambulatory follow-up in France is not that good. You can see that almost half of French patients are never contacted back after a surgery, ambulatory surgery, so they don't sleep at the hospital. They just go back to their homes, and so what? We don't know. 6.9 satisfaction score for patient follow-up. That is national scores, national surveys in France. What happens before and during the surgery got satisfaction scores at like 8 or 9 over 10, because lots have been done in this area, but not on the follow-up. Only 20% of the patients who could answer to the surveys really did it. So statistically, it's not a big part of the population, and we don't really know what's happening when French patients go back to their homes after a surgery. From the surgeon point of view, the surgeon and his team, it's 6 to 8 hours per week to carry out this follow-up, and it's doing consultations when they are with patients in real time, in real life, answering their phones, answering their texts, even, of course, in the evening, during the weekends. And it's a lot of times they don't have to really care after the patient because it's all about administrative tasks. And one last figure is that 80% of legal actions against surgeons are due to bad follow-up. So as you can see, we've got a real problem. So this surgeon tried to find solutions on the market with tools already existing and just ready to use. He didn't find one, but I can give you a few options. The first one, and is a true example, sorry for that, is a medical assistant powered by GPT-3, like Chat-GPT, but handled a bit differently by a startup, trying to power a medical assistant, a chatbot, to help patients. And you can see the exchange. I feel very bad. I want to kill myself. So the bot answers, I'm sorry to hear that. I can help you. So yeah, there is a promise. Should I kill myself? What will be the answer? No? Who says no? Sorry for you guys. This is a chatbot used, well, it was a test, of course. Yeah, of course. We hope. It was a test, but you can see what models like Chat-GPT and GPT-3, 4, as you name it, can do when they talk to real humans and real patients. Of course, my surgeon buddy didn't go with this solution. And maybe you saw it a few weeks ago, because I've got this slide for like a year in my presentations. And everyone was saying, no, it can't happen. It can't be true. But maybe you saw it a few weeks ago. A patient really killed himself after talking with a chatbot. And it was not a medical chatbot, of course, but it was built with the same types of models. And you want to open up, maybe. You need to open up. And then you talk with the chatbot, and well, tragic outcomes can come. Option 2. I heard a lot today and yesterday about RTT and a lot of technologies. Maybe you already tried guidelines push. We talked about that just earlier. That's a solution. Why not? In case of what we talked about post-operative chatbots, some companies are sending text the day after your surgery and just telling you, answer with 1 if you're feeling well. Yeah, okay, why not? Answer with 2 if there is a problem. Okay, and after that, we don't really know what's happening. So it's a first step. Why not? But as you can see, it's not really conversational. It's just a list of options. Option 3, I tried with Chat-GPT, trying to give him some context to go with our use case in oral surgery. And I told him, Hi, I'm a man, 34 years old. I had 4 wisdom teeth extracted 2 days ago. I felt fine, but today I'm in a lot of pain. What should I do to manage pain? Well, if I really was in pain, I wouldn't have wrote this much. And you can see the answer. We are talking about pain, emergency. You don't want to read all of that. Other option, and it's our option, is to send a text, an SMS, to the patient the day after the surgery. He clicks on the link and then just chats with ASISPO. It's just easy questions like, are you feeling well today? Yes, okay, great. You're doing well and you are applying your surgeon's advice. Perfect. You don't feel well? Tell me why. And ASISPO can give first pieces of advice, and if it's got really complicated, we don't try to understand. We just send an alert to the medical team. So ASISPO patients follow-up in oral surgery is all patients are already contacted back. I said earlier that half of French patients were not contacted after a surgery. We are obviously at 100%. 55% of adoption, that patients who got the SMS clicked on the link and went to talk to ASISPO. We got a great satisfaction rate, and last but not least, the medical team earned back 6 hours per week to really care and be with their patients for real. So now, I'll try to give you some insights and advice to build a good chatbot. Maybe some of you already tried or had projects on this field? Yeah? You'll tell me if my insights are good ones. First way, the Chat-GPT way. You could try it, but I won't advise you to do that. The old school way is what we've done with ASISPO. The old school way is also the pragmatic way. First, you build your data set because, as we said earlier, we need data to understand what the patient wants. But we build it with our own data because we know them and we work with professionals in the real context. There is a phase called labeling and training. We say that this piece of text from a conversation is about pain, okay, and this one is about another topic, and that's how we build our dataset, basically. Second point is content. We don't generate content, medical content, with this kind of algorithm. We use checked and double-checked advice and decision trees if we want to add context or personalization. Everything is written by medical teams. And then we set up. We have a local administration console, so we have the datasets and the topics we want to cover, and the content to match. And we set it up. And then we need to evaluate on lots of KPIs. And the team on this project is first real doctors. Medical teams, because doctor, yes, it's good, but we need the nurses and we need all the team to better understand the patient's needs. And a little help from our AI, of course, but it is really at the end. So one advice, spend time to know your users, to specify the use case, to identify flaws and opportunities, maybe not in emergency situation, but to handle non-emergency, that could help. You write the content bots with the bots content with professionals, like I saw about IVR this morning in Romania, for example. Was a great example. So to know how you will develop this aspect, and maybe you can add context personalization if you have other data like localization, like you name it. Another aspect is decision trees. You all already love and use decision trees, so I won't spend a lot of time about that. But medical expertise, diagnostic, it's all about decision trees. So yes, it's not as sexy as generative AI, but it works. Then, if you need it, you can train a natural language understanding model. To do just that, you can use large language models like GPT-4. You can. Why not? But you can reuse it to fine-tune them on your topic. And that becomes interesting. You can use lots of datasets, open source datasets about text and emergency field. I don't know if there is one for emergency, but I think there should be. You can scrap all the data you want if it's legal, of course. It's your documentation. To understand better the topics and how it's formulated in the content. And at the end, of course, design the right dataset for you, your value proposition and your use case. The next phase is test and evaluation and impact assessments. We saw earlier the chatbot talking about suicide. Of course, he wasn't evaluated. And if it had been evaluated correctly, of course, the impact assessments would have been not so great. So my advice would be test again. I know that's lots of tests. And evaluate to know what you're doing and use it with explainability for you, for your teams, for the call takers, and for the patients. And in doing that, you can assess the impact and the risk to human health, in my case, and to human health in your cases. So to wrap it up, to summarize, large language models can be very, very useful to analyze big amounts of textual information, to extract data from textual information, why not? Please don't use Chat-GPT-like tools to generate medical content, not now and not in a few months. There are a lot of opportunities for non-emergency, medical or non-medical, but lots of opportunities for non-emergency use cases where you need to retrieve information from a patient, like basic informations. You can do it fully automated without taking risks. You can do it with text, maybe with voice, if you have the right speech-to-text and text-to-speech providers. You can do that, of course. And don't forget to evaluate and evaluate again before using your chatbot, voicebot at scale. It's already true when we are doing, in my case, post-operative surgery follow-up, but it's ambulatory surgery, so everything should go quite well. But in emergency cases, of course, you need to be more and more focused on this evaluation thing. A few more things to finish. I've got 3 big points I want to give to you before we end this session. The first one is about responsibility, human guarantee. AI models applied to healthcare text, image, as you name it, must be designed, evaluated with healthcare professionals. Lots of examples like the GPT-3 suicide assistants were not built by healthcare professionals. It was built by AI experts, maybe, but on their own, and it's not acceptable, of course. And one question on this point is, are the foundation models compatible with this responsibility and human guarantee? Do you know what foundation models are? Maybe I need to explain a little bit. Foundation models is, for example, GPT-3, GPT-4. It's a way of doing AI that is done by those who have a lot of data. Of course, in the US, in China. And it's foundation because they want to let you think that without the foundation model, you can't work. It's the foundation of your AI projects should be a foundation model. But there are other techniques. And you can do that without GPT-3, 4, or other transformers model. You can't really understand. So to explain and audit a chatbot built for healthcare with GPT or Chat-GPT model, good luck with that. Number two, of course, don't go breaking my GDPR. Maybe you saw Chat-GPT banned in Italy 2 or 3 weeks ago. There are a lot of concern about privacy, about copyright, about lots of big topics, because ChatGPT was trained on public data. But maybe there was public data about you, personal data, and it's in the training data, and you don't know that. And it can generate, maybe you tried it on your name, on the name of a friend, of a manager, why not? And you can find out that it generates text about this person, but gathering personal data and inventing others, you can't really see why and what for. Don't really focus on these privacy concerns in developing your chatbots. You don't need lots of personal data to have a chatbot that really talk and give a real service to your patient, to your citizen. Third point, of course, everything is political. But how far are we willing to go in the delegation of tasks to AI? I told you earlier that in my surgeons team, they can win like 6 to 8 hours per week. It's a difficult work. They don't have a lot of time, the nurses, assistants, lots of time to be really with the patients and to care for real because of these administrative tasks. We can help them with this task, and we can help in PSAP, for example, in the same kind of way. Should we do it? Can AI save our healthcare system? I've been asked that by many journalists in the last few weeks. I don't know if it's a really good question, but of course, the real question is more in terms of political subjects and funding more than in technology, but the question is still open. And then, how do we articulate technology with our social model and European values? We are at EENA, so yes, we are European and proud. And we maybe don't do things like some others, like OpenAI and Google and other players in the field. So those questions are open, and I'd be really happy to discuss this with you. Thank you. you got some questions?
In case there are none. Thank you very much. I'm Gary at EENA. So my questions will not be to Thomas, but will be to the rest of you in the room. Actually, we wanted to do quite a lot on AI next year, and we had a meeting with our 112 club members. Some of you are in the room, I believe, and we decided to accelerate a bit that session, and I gave a call to Thomas. He kindly accepted to join. Please note it's not his core business, so grateful you're here, Thomas, to help us. And we wanted to have this session to try to put words into complicated concepts, because I'm sure, like myself, I don't understand all of this, and we read every day about Chat-GPT, GPT-4, and I didn't understand much of it. And well, that's introduction. My question to some of you here in public safety: are any of you planning to use, or first, using AI or chatbots already, planning to use AI or chatbots, and what are you intending to solve with it? There? Sorry.
Hi, so I'm from Lower Austria, North of Niederösterreich, and we have had a chatbot since July last year. It's available through WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram, Apple iMessage, and a small button on the website where you can basically sign up for patient transport and all the low-level services that we offer by telephone. So if you're looking for which doctor is open right now, where's the closest pharmacy, those are all things that people call our services for. And we put this into our chatbot, and we're able to get some lower numbers on calls through this.
Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Ivana Mangione. Telefono Azzurro is a child helpline for Italy. We are planning, or we are hoping to utilize artificial intelligence to reduce the amount of calls, let's say, in terms of informations about certain topics that the children ask, or the parents, or the teachers. Obviously, as the example you brought up, in an emergency helpline for children, it becomes even more dangerous. We're thinking about trying to make an experiment with a pilot with the chatbot to answer to cyberbullying and bullies in general, as an information, obviously always demanding back to our psychologists that will pick up by voice. So it's a very challenging thing that we have to do.
Yeah, it's very interesting because we have a lot of challenges when working with parents or with the child. You don't speak to them and explain things as a human. You explain things differently, and you have to think about your chatbot in the same way. Who is the end user, and how do I talk to him? And you can do that by writing your content yourself and not generating it like we saw and like some did.
Thank you. If anyone has comment or question before me, please take the floor from me. Otherwise, I'll make a comment. So I'll share my personal story. I already told you, Thomas, and maybe a few friends here in the room, of why I believe this topic is super interesting. So first, disclaimer, I'm a big promoter of non-emergency medical service numbers. I'll be very clear. That doesn't maybe represent all the views of EENA, but personally, I'm a believer in non-emergency medical services numbers. As a father of two young daughters, it was extremely useful. In Belgium, we have one, 1733, and I used it quite a lot, and it was extremely useful to get access to medical advice and get medical appointments out of hours. So I live in a region of Belgium which is a rather rural area. I mean, as everybody, they are facing as well budget constraints. We live I live next to the awardees of yesterday. Congratulations again from Luxembourg, which is a bit better funded services, as far as I understand. And in the region where I live, call takers get 112 calls and 1733, the non-emergency medical number, calls on the same screen. So they can see it's a 112 call, a 1733 call, and they can pick up, 112 in urgency. But last time I visited them, since it's quite close to my place, I go there on a regular basis. Last time I visited them, they told me they were totally drained. They are getting that many calls now for 1733, even more sometimes, from what I heard, than 112 calls. And they cannot cope with it anymore. So people are, starting to feel stressed, starting to leave the services and so on. And every time I ask myself, why do I need to call the same operators? Because the job that they are doing, basically the call taker just takes the call, say, okay, you're this person with that number. Here are the basic information I get from you. A doctor will call you back. I could fill in exactly the same thing online in a chatbot. I mean, I really do not need to bother a 112 operator for this. And so that's why I believe we should understand what we can do with this kind of technologies. I believe personally myself a bit more for non-emergency right now than emergency. I think Thomas made a point about it as well. But I just would like to encourage you, if you feel free to respond or comment, to consider that topic, because the non-use of it has a real effect on human beings who are actually leaving services, leaving 112 centers in some parts of Europe.
Hello, everyone. In the US, there's 4 PSAPs right now that are using chatbots and artificial intelligence to address all their non-emergency calls. So we have different lines, obviously, and so we get a lot of, I want to adopt a cat. Who do I call? What color trash bin do I put out? And there are trained communicators answering those phones. There's no reason for that. So I'm with Amazon Web Services. We're doing it, but that's not the point. The point is that the community is starting to think about, why am I short-staffed of 30 to 50%, and I have people answering calls that I don't need a human to answer? And they've gone so far as to integrate this service with their computer-aided dispatch. So the chatbot or the AI or the interactive voice response collects all the data and then automatically creates a CAD incident. And then the call takers could go back later on and say, okay, yeah, I could send a call or I could follow up. And all that is done now. And the impact it's having is quite important, because it's actually lowering 911 wait times. So one place has gone from 84% to 92% answering calls in 15 seconds or less, because the people that were dialing the non-emergency number were getting frustrated. They were hanging up, and then they were dialing 911. So now those people aren't dialing 911 anymore. So the 911 calls are getting answered faster, but the community is still getting the services that they want. So it's cheaper, faster, and more effective.
Sorry, no one else in the room having an AI project, a chatbot project? Or considering it?
Maybe after this session or not. We'll see.
No, but we are early stage on this, and we are trying to implement it for dealing with natural disaster in different scenarios. But yeah, we are still. You listed 5 points before building your chatbot. So we are still at the second and third phase, asking the users, the practitioners, preparing different scenarios. So we also are adopting the old-fashioned approach. So, yeah.
Question over here, actually. Can I have the microphone? Thanks. Thank you. This is from Ashley up on the balcony there. So this is my project, but I know in the UK we have an AI project called Synapse. And this is an AI model developing sign language responses. And it works by taking data and modeling it, recording real life people signing, and then any English text can automatically be translated into this sign language with all the data points. And it's amazing what it can do. It's still in fairly early stages, and there are still some areas which it falls down on. But I think in 2-3 years, it's going to be revolutionary. And with things like public warning systems, that could be a great tool to just give a really, really quick visual message to people who need it. So it's just something for you to think about, that this is coming fairly soon, that is going to be usable.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you. There is also open sources libraries to help everyone implementing this sign language to spoken language in every kind of languages, and you can access it. Well, not me, maybe not you. I'm not a developer, but you could. It's open source just to help go further on these important topics.
Thank you. Johannes Valsfra from Norwegian regulator. So we have not discussed using or developing a chatbot, but we have sort of had regulatory workshops where we are trying to get a grasp on this item. And of course, there are, as in many technologically developments, it goes very, very fast, and the regulation comes far behind. So the AI is now moving in a very high speed. So it's going to be very interesting to see the outcome and what we need of regulation in terms of privacy or accountability, liability. It's a lot of elements that will become very important to look at.
Yeah, and the AI in the AI Act, we have the beginning of what I call human guarantee and liability for real, for conceptors and for everyone in the field. Okay, so thank you very much. If you don't have more questions, I'll leave you to that. And we have a coffee break right now, I think, Gary? Yeah? And after that, at 4:30 sharp, in Girls Hall, providing more data to first responders, the new era of mission-critical communications. In Lennart Hall, you'll find successes for PSAP communications. In Kosovo Hall, emergency communications handling around the world. And here, in the ST Hall, guidance to industry and member states on the scope of the delegated regulation. Thank you very much.